Good day everyone! Today we are going to talk about SDLC or Software Development Lifecycle. So the material that I will be using today was created by Alexandra Altvater and was created last April 8, 2020. So this will be our basis on our discussion for today. Okay, so let us start by knowing what is an SDLC. Okay, so the Software Development Lifecycle refers to a methodology with clearly defined processes for creating high-quality software. Okay, so we have different points that we need to consider on this definition. It says here that it refers to a methodology. So basically, the methodology is being included on our documentation requirement later on if you are going to create our system or we are going to create our software. Okay, so the methodology will be showing you the different steps on how we were able to come up or how were you able to finish all of the system, or how were you able to put into context or put into an output the different requirements being gathered. Okay, so with clearly defined processes, so there are different steps that we need to consider later on, especially so in software development. Okay, so we need this particular phases, we need these particular processes in creating a high quality software or what we call the system na. Okay, so in detail, the SDLC methodology focuses on the following phases of software development. So ano nga ba itong mga different phases na ito that are equally important on the software development? Okay, so let's start with the requirement analysis. Basically, here on requirement analysis, this is also somewhat the same with our first topic, which is the requirements gathering, no? Wherein you need to gather all of the information that are needed. You need to gather all of the details that are connected, all of the processes that are connected on the software or the system that you are going to create later on. Because basically, you cannot create a system without knowing first the flow of the business per se. If you're going to create a system for a business, you don't know what to do, you don't know what to create if you haven't gathered some requirements or you haven't gathered some information about it. So, hindi natin alam kung ano yung mga ide-develop natin, ano yung mga options, ano yung mga transactions, ano yung mga report na ipiprint out nung system natin kung hindi pa tayo pumupunta doon sa talagang facility wherein hindi pa tayo nakakapag-gather ng mga data, hindi tayo nagtatanong, hindi tayo nagde-data gathering using the different methods in data gathering. Just for example, you use questionnaires, you use surveys, or you use interview in order for you to obtain all of the requirements or all of the information that are needed para i-execute mo later on or i-create mo doon sa or i-apply mo sa system na gagawin mo later on. So after gathering all of the data, of course, you need also to analyze all of the requirements that are being given to you, and then you are going to sort out or you're going to filter whether they are important or not. That is why we have the different requirements. We have the functional and non-functional requirements. So you are going to weigh in kung alin ba doon yung functional requirements natin. Are they being categorized on the functional requirements or on the non-functional requirements, or needed ba yon na ilagay natin doon sa loob ng system natin or not? So you need to weigh things, no? That is for the requirement analysis. And next, we have the planning. Of course, in order for you to have a high quality software, hindi ka naman basta-basta pumupunta para data gathering and then coding ka na. Of course, you need also a plan. That is why, di ba, sa isang bahay, bago ka makapagpatayo ng isang bahay, you need a plan para naman alam nila kung paano nyo or paano nila gagawin yung house or yung bahay na ipapatayo. Same as true with the system development or the software development, wherein you need also a planning. What are the things that you need to do? What are the things that you need to do first? The next? Then lastly, ano yung mga information na i-gather mo? You need also to plan, as well as the people the people that are going to, or the stakeholders that are going to work with you, you need also to plan kung ano yung mga jobs, ano yung mga tasks na gagawin nila. Okay, so that is also part of the phases, dun sa phases ng software development under SDLC. The next one is software design, such as the architectural design. So basically, dito sa software design natin, you really need to you really need to look hindi lang yung nasa loob ng system mo, but as well as yung nasa labas niya. In and out yan. Okay? So yung software design natin, kung yung user interface design ba ng ating system ay user-friendly ba? Pag sinabi natin user-friendly, mabilis lang ba siyang magamit ng kahit sino, kahit anong age bracket, mabilis lang ba siyang gamitin? So you also need to consider the appearance or the design also of your system, not just yung appearance na nakikita, yung user interface design natin, but also yung design ng magiging system mo, yung functionality ng iyong system. You also need to consider that, yung in and out po natin. And next, we also have the software development. Now that you know the requirements that being gathered, now that you have a plan, you follow that plan, you have the design, now it is the time for software development, and now is the time for you to execute it. Okay, so those requirements that being gathered, you now need to apply it to and create a system already using the different programming languages that are available now. And also, of course, you may use databases. Databases are very important in software development because you are going to store all of the information that being gathered, all of the details that you are going to input later on your system or to enter on your system. Okay, you need the database for our storage. And next, we also have the testing. After the software development, of course, hindi pa okay yung system natin. You need to test it out. Trial and error, kumbaga. Kung may problema, you need to debug it. Kung okay na siya, you still need to test it. Because hindi sa lahat ng oras ay magiging okay or magiging complete or tama lahat ng mga in-input ng programmer. Of course, there is a trial and error. That is why we have different stakeholders that are involved in software development. Hindi lang yung customer, hindi lang yung user, hindi lang yung manager, nandiyan din yung software engineer, nandiyan din yung programmer, nandiyan yung developer, nandiyan yung designer. Okay, so you need testing, trial and error yan. And then we also have the deployment. So after testing all of the different functions of your system, pag okay na siya na target na natin yung mga different requirements set by the different stakeholders, now it is time for us to deploy. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng deployment? Ang ibig sabihin po ng deployment ay ibibigay mo na yung system, ipapagamit mo na doon sa facility or doon sa organization na ginawan mo ng system. So basically, pag capstone project po ito, pag gumawa tayo ng system natin, for example sa school requirement natin, yung thesis natin, basically, you are going to start with the first phase, which is requirement analysis or data gathering phase. And then, you need to plan also kung paano mo sila or kung paano ka magre-requirements gathering or kung ano yung mga other things na kailangan nyong gawin. Okay, you need to plan. Okay, para hindi tayo watak-watak yung thought natin. And then, you also need to draft your architectural design. You need to draft all of your prototypes. Something like that, di ba? Magpa-prototype tayo. Yung prototype natin, that will be our basis kung ano yung magiging itsura niya. But, the prototype itself, pwede siyang maiba. Kasi, as I've said, maraming mga stakeholders na involved dito sa software development natin. So, yung prototype natin, might as well, pwedeng magamit natin, pwedeng hindi. That is why, we have different types of prototype, no? That is just our basis para alam natin kung paano yung magiging itsura ng system natin later on. And then after that, pwede na tayong mag-coding, mag-software development na po tayo. And pag okay na, magte-test na po tayo, trial and error, and kung okay na sabi na yung mga different recommendations, pag nag-defense na kayo, meron na kayong mga recommendations given by the panelists, pwede na kayong mag-deploy after you have finish all of the requirements that are being intended, no? That was being given by the panelists. So, in-apply nyo na yung mga recommendations. After applying all of the recommendations na yan, magpapacheck ulit kayo, and after that, itetest ulit nila. Pag okay na, perfect na, pero you need to understand that there is no perfect system. Pag okay na siya, functioning na siya, nagagawa naman niya yung mga requirements niya, pwede na kayo sa deployment. Okay? So, ita-take over nyo na yan sa mga gagamit. So, basically, as I've said, wala pong perfect na system. So, lahat po ng system natin, meron at merong flows yan. Kahit yung mga tataas na or mga prominent na mga companies, such as Facebook, we also have Google, meron at merong mga bugs yung kanilang mga services, yung mga applications nila, or yung mga software nila. There will always be a bug. That is why meron tayong tinatawag na update. Anong ibig sabihin ng update? So, for example, meron tayong system na ginawa ngayon, yung update natin, meron siyang version 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, mga ganon. Kasi meron mga features na idadagdag. So, gaya ng sabi ko, walang perfect na system. Kasi through advancement of technology, meron kang may dadagdag doon sa software, doon sa system natin. So, that is for the SDLC. Now, it is also a process that produces software the highest quality and lowest cost in the shortest time possible. So basically, if you would like to have a quality na software, yung high quality software, of course, you also need to take into consideration yung cost or yung magiging cost ng software na yon. And then you also need to consider the time. Okay, the time frame that you are going to create that. That is why meron tayong budgetary requirements and yung schedule natin. Okay, so you need to follow the budgetary requirements that be included. Yan, you are going to set it. And then, yung shortest time possible, yan yung schedule natin. So, basically, you are going to put a schedule for the requirements gathering, a schedule for the planning, schedule for the coding or software development, schedule for the testing, and of course, the target date for the deployment. And then, it provides also a well-structured flow of phases that help an organization to quickly produce high-quality software which is well-tested and ready for production use. So, yun naman yung pinaka-target natin kung bakit tayo nagcreate ng software, bakit tayo nagcreate ng mga system. Okay, so to produce high-quality software, which is well-tested. Of course, you need to test and test, no? Trial and error tayo para wala tayong makitang problema or malaking major problem later on. If ever that the user will be encountering a problem later on, at least alam natin kung paano natin siya ibabug or paano natin siya i-fix later on. Okay, so and ready for production use. Okay, so there are also different stages and best practices on SDLC. So the following best practices or stages of SDLC ensures the process works in a smooth, efficient, and productive way. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Okay, this is also somewhat the same with the steps in programming process. Ayan, number 1, you need to identify the current problems. Okay, so it answers the question, what are the current problems? Doon naman tayo lagi nagsisimula sa problema. You cannot expect a person to come up with a solution without understanding first what is the problem. Ano kayong problema na kailangan nating i-tackle? Okay, ano kayong problema ng isang organization, ng isang department, ng isang business? Bakit kailangan nilang magpa-create ng system? So you need to know first, you need to identify, you need to understand first kung ano yung problem niya. Sabi niya dito, this stage of the SDLC means getting input from all stakeholders. Yan, it's very important. You get input from all stakeholders that are involved in the software development. Ano yung mga stakeholders na yan? Nandyan yung customer, nandyan yung salespeople, industry experts, and the different programmers. So basically, kung nasa school ka sa academe, if you're going to create your thesis, if you're going to create your system, of course, you also need the opinion of your advisor. And if you are going to defend that particular system, syempre kakailangan mo rin yung help ng mga different panelists. Kasi magkakaiba naman yung thoughts ng mga different panelists natin. So basically, ito, si panelist 1 gusto niya ng ganito, si panelist 2 meron ganyan, meron silang may input. That is why it is important doon sa pagde-defend later on ng inyong system, doon sa capstone ninyo, it is important na nakukuha nyo kung ano yung gusto nilang gawin dun sa system ninyo or na-defend ninyo kung ano yung naging content ng system ninyo. It is also important to ask for help doon sa mga different stakeholders that are involved doon sa software development ninyo or system development ninyo, especially yung gagamit. Yan, number 1 yan yung gagamit, and then yung mga experts, and of course you also need the help of your advisor and the other teachers na IT teachers that can help you with your system. Kasi siguro sa isang teacher, or sa isang panelist, hindi niya masabi lahat ng mga requirements. So, sasabihin niyo ng pangalawa or merong mga features na alam yung isa na hindi alam ng isa. So, yung mga information na galing doon, yung mga recommendations na galing doon, gagamitin natin yun for the system to have in order for us to create a functional system. So sabi niya dito, learn the strengths and weaknesses of the current system with improvement as they go. That is why we have the different versions. We have an update. Gaya nga sa mga OS natin, di ba? Yung mga OS natin, hindi lang sa cellphones or sa smartphones, meron din tayong mga software, yung mga operating system sa mga laptops natin wherein meron at meron siya mga update. That is why you need to learn the strengths. Ano ba yung mga transactions, kung paano ba yung mga current system nila, yung mga ginagamit nilang mga software, mga ginagamit nilang system. For example, gumagamit sila ng manual system. Ano yung strengths niya? Ano yung weaknesses niya? You need to understand first all of these strengths and weaknesses para alam mo kung paano mo aatakihin yung system at para yung output na ilalabas mo ay improved version, hindi yung degraded version. Okay? So, you need to identify the current problems. And next, plan. Okay, what do we want? Ano ba yung gusto natin? So, in this stage of the SDLC, the team determines the costs and resources required for implementing the analyzed requirements. So, basically, hindi ka naman pwedeng gumawa ng system or hindi ka naman pwedeng gumawa ng software para sa isang organization, para sa isang business, without also taking into consideration yung magiging cost niya and yung resources na gagamitin natin. Okay? It also details the risks involved and provides plans for softening those risks. So basically, hindi lang naman puro tayo passive. There will be an instance that there will be a risk, okay, especially on the development of the system. Again, in other words, the team should determine the feasibility of the project and how they can implement the project successfully with the lowest risk in mind. So basically, meron tayong word dito na feasibility. That is why we have the feasibility study. Okay? You need to understand, or you need to know the different feasibility studies like the behavioral feasibility, economic feasibility studies, and other studies. You need to target that. You need to know all of those feasibilities in order for you to implement your project successfully. So, yun yung mga plan natin. Yun yung isa sa mga kasali doon sa plan natin. You need to consider, ito ba yung mga, feasible ba siya? Possible ba siya pag ganito yung nilagay ko na feature niya? Okay, possible ba siya? Mababayaran ba nila pag nilagyan ko ng ganitong mga technology, mga bagay na ganito? Okay, so you need to plan kung paano natin atakihin yung pagka-create natin para makapag-implement tayo ng successful. Okay? The next one is design. So, how will we get what we want? Paano natin makukuha yung gusto natin? So, basically, this phase of the SDLC starts by turning the software specifications into a design plan called the design specification. So, meron tayong requirement specification, meron din tayong design specification. Sabi niya dito, all stakeholders then review this plan and offer feedback and suggestions. That is why, doon sa first na phase natin, it is always important to involve the stakeholders. Kasi nga sabi niya dito, magbibigay siya ng feedback, magbibigay siya ng suggestion. You need to take note, it's crucial to have a plan for collecting and incorporating stakeholders' input into this document. So failure at this stage will almost certainly result in cost overruns at best and the total collapse of the project at worst. So basically, you also need to choose the reviews, the feedbacks, and the suggestions. Kasi baka meron silang mga gustong ipagawa dyan, ginawa mo naman ay hindi pala naman siya required dito sa system at pinagulo niya pa yung system or yung design ng inyong system. Of course, you need also to filter, you need to sort out all of the feedbacks and suggestions being given by the stakeholders. Kaya very crucial itong itong stage na to kasi you are going to create a design specification. Ito na yung ipa-follow mo later on Parang prototyping na ito. Okay, so you need to filter, you need to sort all of the gathered feedbacks and suggestions na you are going to incorporate later on your system or on your project. Okay, next, after knowing the design, now it is time for us to build. Let us create what we want. Alam na natin kung ano yung gusto natin. Alam na natin yung design niya. Meron na tayong i-follow. Nag-create na tayo ng mga feasibility questions or feasibility studies. Yung mga different feasibility studies na gawa na natin. Alam na natin yung mga different process. Now it is the time for us to build our software or our system. So sabi niya dito, at this stage, the actual development starts. It's important that every developer sticks to the agreed blueprint. Ano ba pag sinabi nating blueprint? Ano ba to? So basically, when we say blueprint, this is our basis, just like our prototype. Yung blueprint natin, that is a consolidated effort from the different stakeholders. Lahat ng mga involved sa software development ay nagbigay sila ng suggestions, nagbigay sila ng mga opinions. Thus, meron tayong blueprint. Parang summary na yan. Yan na yung visual representation ng magiging target natin na software. And also, make sure you have proper guidelines in place about the code style and the different practices. Now, you cannot create a software na dalawa yung magiging programmer niya. Kasi, minsan nagkakaroon tayo ng conflict. Okay, magkaiba yung style or coding style ng isa, magkaiba yung coding style ng isa. So, you need to choose. You need to incorporate or you need to involve a programmer na iisa lang yung coding style niya and practices niya para hindi kayo magka-problema later on sa software development. Okay, kasi baka mamaya ito yung gusto ng isa, ito yung gusto ng isa. There will be a conflict. Walang matatapos. The next one is code test. Now, we already built our system. Meron na tayong user interface design. Now, it is time for us to test. Did we get what we want? Nakuha ba natin yung gusto natin? Okay, so in this stage, we test for defects and deficiencies. So, kung meron tayong tong code testing na yun, yung testing and debugging natin, trial and error na tayo. So, basically, kung meron kayong nakitang mga bugs, meron kayong nakikitang mga problems, we fix those issues until the product meets the original specifications. In short, we want to verify if the code meets the defined requirements. So basically, isa lang naman yung pinaka-importante dyan, na meet natin yung requirements na naset ng different stakeholders na involved dito sa software development natin. And then, dapat yung na-create natin na system, na-create natin na software ay pareho doon sa process na gustong mangyari ng manager natin or yung user natin. Okay, number 6, software deployment. So basically, let's start using what we got. After knowing the problem, after designing, after building, after testing and debugging, after coding, now it is the time for us to deploy our software. So let's start using what we got. Because at this stage, the goal is to deploy the software to the production environment so users can start using the product. So however, many organizations choose to move the product through different deployment environments such as testing or staging environments. So this allows any stakeholders to safely play with the product before releasing it to the market. So besides, this allows any final mistakes to be caught before releasing the product. Okay, so bago tayo mag-release ng ating product, syempre kailangan mo ng final testing or pilot testing. Ayan. So, for example, 'di ba, sa pag-create ng medicine, hindi mo naman agad-agad yan ibibigay, or for example sa vaccine, hindi mo naman agad-agad yan ipapaturok sa mga tao, 'di ba? Meron pa rin at merong testing, and after the testing and debugging, syempre meron ulit pilot testing. So para makita natin kung ano yung mga side effects niya, kung ano pa yung mga magiging problema pag ginamit 'yon. Okay, so same as this one, the software development. After that, pwede na natin siyang, pag okay na siya, pag safe na siya, pag nakita na lahat ng mga bugs, pag working na yung system natin at sa tingin natin ay pwede na siyang i-deploy, okay na siya. Okay, you may now deploy it. Okay? You may now release the product to the mass or to the users. Okay? So those are the different phases. Okay? So let's just go back. Those are the different best practices and different stages under the SDLC. We have the identifying current problems, planning, designing, building, code test, and we also have the software development. Okay, so I hope you understood those different stages. Now, let's proceed to the SDLC models. Okay, so the software development life cycle methodology, we also have different models that we can use. Okay, so it is being specified na kung ano ba yung mga different models na pwede nating gamitin later on, especially in creating our software or our system, and of course you need to integrate it in your documentation under your capstone later on. Okay, so yung SDLC models, we have the waterfall model, we also have the agile model, iterative model, and we also have the spiral model. Meron pang mga other models just like Big Bang and other models that are available, but these are the most commonly used SDLC models or methodologies, especially dun sa pag-create ng ating mga capstone or mga thesis natin. Okay? So, let's start with the waterfall model. I will not explain it thoroughly kasi I will be, isa-isahin ko yung mga different models later on. I will be explaining, I will be discussing to you the different models separately. Okay? So, this is just a brief discussion. Ipahapyo lang po tayo. Okay, let's start with the waterfall model. So, the waterfall model is the oldest and most straightforward. So, basically, itong waterfall model, hindi na masyadong ginagamit ito or hindi na ina-advise na gamitin, especially sa documentation. Ang mostly na ginagamit na dyan is yung agile model or yung mga spiral model. Pero itong waterfall model, parang, since it's the oldest and most commonly used na, it was being disregarded na mostly, no, yung waterfall model natin. Yung mga ibang models na yung mostly pinapagawa. Okay, and then this methodology, okay, when we finish one phase and then start to the next. So each phase has its own mini plan and each phase waterfalls into the next. Pag sinabi natin kasing waterfall na pababa, ayan, parang from the top, 'di ba, pababa yung water. Okay, so yun yung thought ng waterfalls. Each phase has its own mini plan and each phase waterfalls into the next. And the biggest drawback of this model is that small details left incomplete can hold up the entire process. Okay? Pag sinabi natin drawback, parang disadvantage. Ayan, disadvantage ng waterfall model. Kung meron daw isang maliit na detail na hindi ka nagawa or na incomplete mo, pwede niyang i-hold yung entire software development mo, yung process mo, yung software development life cycle po natin. Okay? So that is for the waterfall model, and the next one we have the agile. Okay, the agile is SDLC model separates the product into cycles and delivers a working product very quickly. Okay, so this methodology produces a succession of releases. So testing of each release feeds back info that's incorporated into the next version. So basically parang let's take into consideration this one. The third sentence, sabi niya, testing of each release feeds back in info that's incorporated into the next version. Okay, so for example, ito yung version natin. There is a continuation, no? This is version 1, version 2. So, using the Agile model, pwede nating incorporate lahat ng mga feedbacks, lahat ng mga pwede nating mga features na i-add to the successive na dun sa mga different releases or sa mga next na releases, yung mga next version na ng mga system later on. Although pareho sila ng name ng system, pero meron silang mga different versions and different features na pwedeng i-supplement doon sa system natin. That is why we have the Agile model. According to Robert Half, the drawback of this model is that the heavy emphasis on customer interaction can lead the project in the wrong direction in some cases. So basically, mas nagpo-focus kasi siya or meron siyang emphasis doon sa interaction ng customer na stakeholder natin. Minsan kasi, the more na nagpo-focus tayo sa customer, kasi hindi lang naman yung customer yung stakeholder natin. Since nagbibigay tayo ng heavy emphasis on the customer interaction, minsan nagkakaroon ng problema, pabalik-balik tayo dun sa customer kung ano yung gusto nila. Okay, it can lead the project in the wrong direction in some cases kasi meron silang pwedeng gustong gawin or ipagawa dun sa system ninyo na hindi naman kailangan pero ini-insist nila. Okay, so using this agile model, yun yung pinaka-drawback niya or yung disadvantage niya. Okay, we also have the iterative model. So this SDLC model emphasizes repetition. Ayan, pag uulit-ulit. So the developers create a version very quickly and for relatively little cost. Then test and improve it through rapid and successive versions. So one big disadvantage here is that it can eat up resources fast if left unchecked. So paulit-ulit yan. Ay, nag-create ka ng isang version. Yan, bilis mong ginawa. And then, sabihin nating mura nga yung system na yon, and then nag-test ka, and gusto mong improve, mabilisan na naman, gano'n naman, parang iterative model lang yan, improve it through rapid and successive versions, version 1, version 2, ang bilis mo nang ginawa, hanggang sa ang dami-dami mo ng versions na ginawa. Okay, so that is the disadvantage. So, hindi mo siya tinitignan ng maayos, ang dami mong versions na ginawa, ang dami mong updates na ginawa, pwede naman pala siyang gawin in one version. Okay, so one big disadvantage here is that it can eat up resources fast if left unchecked. We also have what we call the spiral model. Mostly ito yung ginagamit na ngayon. And then yung agile model. So the most flexible of the SDLC models is the spiral model, which is similar to the iterative model in its emphasis on repetition. Okay, so the spiral model goes through the planning, design, build, and test phases over and over with gradual improvements at each pass. So this is the most commonly, pinakamaganda para sa akin, no? Yung spiral model natin. Kasi nafa-follow niya talaga kung ano yung magiging or ano yung mga best practices or kung ano yung mga stages. Nilalagay talaga dito sa may spiral model. So basically, kung merong mga improvement, kung merong mga updates na gusto mong gawin dun sa system mo, pwede mong i-apply ulit dyan. Yan yung spiral model. Kaya meron tayong spiral, parang pa-circular siya. Okay, so unending yan. So kaya meron tayong mga upgraded mga versions na ganon. That is why we make use of the spiral model. Okay, so that is just a brief discussion kasi di-discuss ko naman siya each one. And I will be including a link later on here para mas mapabilis yung pag-click natin. Okay? And then, let's just have a recap, no? Those are the different software development lifecycle methodologies. Yung model natin, we have the waterfall model, we have the agile model, we have the iterative model, and of course, we also have the spiral model. Okay, so that is just a brief discussion on the software development lifecycle, and I hope we understood, and I hope you learned something valuable today. If you have any questions, if you want any clarifications about this topic, do not hesitate to ask me, and I will try my best to answer it. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Good day and God bless.